Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Own Your Essence podcast, where we get to have deep transformational conversations with some of our favorite people. I am your host, April DeMille, and today I'd really like to see if you could help me give a warm welcome to my guest. Her name is Lucille Barkman. She is a mentor and a professional listener. I love the sounds of that, by the way. Supporting women who are experiencing significant life changes. So I am very, very excited to speak to this woman. Very, very excited. We have lots in common, I think. Drum roll. Hey, Lucille. I was just telling everybody your little introduction, but I think it would mean so much more if you could tell the audience, um, I guess, what it was the moment that you realized it was time for you to step into the mentorship role for other women in life transitions.
That's a bit of an interesting journey because for years I've had this, I called it the thing. It was kind of in my chest that
Okay.
it drove me crazy because I knew there was more that I wanted to do. And I'd ask questions, I would try and talk about it, and I never got anywhere. And I probably had that I had that for years until I happened upon someone I followed on Facebook, on social media. She posted something, and then all of a sudden that clicked in my brain that, you know what she's saying could maybe help me sort out what this thing was that I wanted to do. And so I had a conversation with her, and she says, "Yeah, you can do something with that." And now I don't think I've ever felt so happy in my life when I realized that this thing wasn't me just being crazy or just something that was there that I needed to get rid of. I actually could do something with it. And so that started the process of, what can I do? What do I want to do? And so because I have a lot of life experience, I chose to be a mentor for other women, listening to them and helping them problem solve how they can move forward in their lives.
Yeah,
And
I was going to say one of the things that you describe is being a professional listener. And I love the ring that has. Can you talk more about like what it means to be a professional listener?
well, people want someone to listen, not to fix them necessarily.
Hmm.
So if you listen and then possibly give some ideas of or pick up what they could do for next steps, like within their own, take their own ideas and make choices that can lead them to next steps in their lives.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I think being an efficient communicator, part of that is being a professional listener. And sometimes, like me and my closest friends, sometimes will ask each other, do you want feedback? Do you want suggestions? Are you open to that? We don't just like bombard each other with unsolicited advice, right? It's like,
Yeah,
are you
exactly.
open to this, or are you just looking to like purge and vent some of this shit,
Yeah.
you know? And so it does make a difference. Because some people just want to shove stuff down your throat, and you're like, whoa, 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 that's not
Yeah,
where I was going.
exactly.
It's like,
And no,
hold
that's
on.
not what I love to fix. And so I
Yeah,
realized, okay, I'm not there to fix their problems. If they want some, advice, I can give them some probably. But if they don't want any, then, I'm there to listen. And, I'm someone who processes, I talk to process.
yeah, me too.
And so as you talk to somebody, sometimes then just doing that, your answers come to me or your next steps come to you.
Right. So if you're like a um a verbal processor, like, a soundboard,
Hmm.
yeah, then the answer is that's exactly what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, literally, that's what I pay my therapist for. I'm like, I have the answers, dude. I just need you to soundboard for me. That's all. Like,
Somehow,
that's
yeah.
all you're doing.
I've been playing on Chat GPT lately, and I'm quite fascinated with what they come up with and the questions they ask.
Yeah, that's so good. So let's backtrack a little bit. Before you started mentorship with other women, what were you doing before that?
I was a housekeeper and professional, or sorry, a housekeeper and a support worker slash support worker.
Okay.
So yeah, I still currently do some of that.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but it's one of those things that it's
It's
needs to
it's
take the back burner so that I can.
yeah.
I'm of the age where I'm quite tired of housekeeping.
You're like, I'm ready to give that up. Well, I do. I mean, I understand because like I still full-time nanny. Like I
Okay.
still, yeah, I'm a private nanny. Love it. Absolutely love it. But it's not going
Okay.
to be the thing I do forever.
Yeah.
Um, also trying to transition into some of the stuff that lights me up a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So can you you talk a lot about, I guess there's a lot of subjects that you kind of go over that I feel like you and I can really get into together. So you talk about faith transitions, marriage, divorce, loss of child, empty nesters. And I'm like, oh yes, let's unlayer all of this shit because I have experience with all of this.
Hmm.
So I would love to hear a little bit more about those pieces of your journey, whatever you're willing to share.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever you're interested in.
Yeah, all of it. So whatever uh you want to start with, do you want to start with faith transitions?
Well, maybe I'll go kind of in order as things happened.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go with that.
And so it was my separation and divorce that happened first 20-ish years ago.
Okay.
And I grew up conservative Mennonite. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not. Is it like can you explain a little bit more? I don't think I've heard of that one.
Well, Mennonites, Amish. Do you know what Amish are?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, well, Amish and Mennonite are not quite the same. They have a little different.
So it's like a branch. Is it like a branch off of the Amish or
No, I think Mennonite is basically separate and Amish is one thing, but they kind of flow together somewhat.
okay,
And there's many different levels of Mennonite. Reason I say conservative Mennonite, I grew up, we wore dresses, we wore a head covering.
right.
Had very, strict guidelines that we followed in the church system
Yeah. Small
and
community, like small
yeah,
tight community.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, got it. Got it.
And so yeah, so my ex-husband grew up Old Order Mennonite, which is the horse and buggy Mennonites.
Okay, so he was super like
Yeah,
traditional.
yeah, he grew up much more conservative yet than I did.
Okay. Okay.
And so he eventually joined the church that I was in. We got married. We were together about 11 years. Then he got involved with my first cousin, and that was just a shit show. That was a road to
Okay.
hell and back for me, emotional, just a
Yeah.
roller coaster.
So there was affairs happening.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And navigating that through a church system, counseling wasn't, well, 20 years ago, I don't know how many people even went to counseling. I mean,
So
it was,
he didn't get excommunicated.
yes, he did.
Oh, he did. Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. He would have gotten excommunicated for
Yeah.
that. So, okay, he did. Okay.
Yes, he did get excommunicated. And so she was my first cousin. They were a family that went to church with us. So it was like her husband was there, I was there, and there was 6 kids between us. And
Oh, wow.
and so yeah, it was, yeah, not good at all. But I lost weight in the first few months. I lost weight. I was that's the one plus.
You're like,
Being
thank you
stressed,
for the stress.
you, you lose weight. I felt really good weight-wise at that point.
Probably not the best way to do it, but I get you. Like,
Yeah.
got to take the wins where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So yeah.
was that the thing that kind of started to shake your faith?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, like then eventually I did start counseling and probably through having conversations with her. My counselor never told me you need to leave the church. She just listened to me. If I had questions, she answered them. And eventually I got to the point where somehow well, no, I remember my kids and I had been gone for a weekend. And when we came back home, we got about 30 minutes from home. And it just felt like I was entering hell. It was just dark and black and awful, just a cloud over us. And as long as I was at home, that cloud stayed over us. When I would drive out to go see my parents, they were on the other side of the 30 kilometers away. Like that would literally left. And when I came back home, it just settled back on me. And that lasted for about 2 months. And then I packed my kids up and I moved to Vancouver Island for the winter. I had someone there that I knew, and I rented a house there, and we just stayed there. And it was at that day while I was there that I pretty much decided I wasn't going back to the church that I had been in because it just didn't work. It just, I had my divorce had happened. Everything went up in smoke, and you come back down and you're not in the walls of where you had grown up.
Yeah, like you don't
So
fit in that puzzle anymore. Like
no,
your
and
little puzzle piece just got so much bigger, so it just doesn't
exactly,
fit anymore.
which is interesting because I've always been the good girl and never wanted to try anything different, never wanted to,
Super
rock the
obedient.
boat. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
And so for me to make a choice like that is actually quite something because I'd never done that before, and so then when I came back, just before I left, our divorce was finalized. And so I felt a little more whatever that I could leave with my kids. And if he wanted to, he could come visit us. Like I wasn't opposed to that. Like he could come visit if he wanted, and if he wanted to see the kids bad enough, then.
yeah.
So yeah, between, your marriage falling apart and not having someone there to support you and then needing to walk away from the religion you grew up in, that was a lot of stuff, and I don't know that sometimes I don't know if I realize how much stuff that was to process. And
Do you ever even stop to give yourself like a credit for how fucking brave you had to be during that?
I'm finding that really hard, I'm what twice, like I said, I'm 20 some years in, and now finally I am realizing what's going on with my nervous system. I knew
Yep.
about the nervous system, but it never connected. And
Yeah.
now I'm beginning to realize, all that shit, all that stuff is in my body. I am just weary. I can barely, and I think of trying to, build a new business. It's just like I'm just tired. I just want to stop. I just want to have enough money to just stop and do nothing for at least a year.
Yeah, like let your
Just,
body just reset because we
yeah.
do hold on to all that trauma. We
So
store
I'm
it.
beginning to realize, it's beginning to make sense to me now, everything that I went through and how it affected my body, because I've been emotionally shut down since a very young child.
Right.
And I think,
Well,
the way
because with that kind of religion, you're taught to doubt yourself, you're taught not to ask questions,
Mhm.
you're taught to just be obedient and keep your mouth shut.
And also that, I love my parents and they cared for me a lot, but they were emotionally shut down also.
Hmm.
So I experienced something called CEN, childhood emotional neglect.
Yep, me too.
And, it's only been since I'm, mid 40s or somewhere around there that I started realizing that, and it's a lot easier not to feel than it is to feel. It's exhausting to feel,
That's the part where I say, girl, you so brave. So, so brave.
so but, my body's giving out. I'm just on overload.
Yeah. But at
And
least you can recognize that and you say, I need time to let my body restore itself. A
yeah.
lot of people, whether they are able to recognize it or not, they still have to keep grinding and do all these things. And you don't get to do that when your body needs it so badly just for
Yeah.
survival.
I'm not taking a year off. I might take a couple months off, January and February, when things are slow.
Take the wins where you get them. Like
Exactly.
again,
It's just like come in October, I moved in October, and then I had to move my clients, get them out of their house because they had to replace the floors. Well, by the end of October, on October 31st, I remember thinking, I am so angry because I have given way too much of myself to get this all organized and planned and been the go-between between the contractors and the person in charge and problem solving. I overdid it
Yeah.
way too much,
Yeah.
and November, it's just like I can't do that anymore. It's a time to just do only what I need to do. And as I've allowed myself in that space, things are starting to come up, like from the past and the shit and the belief systems, and so I'm starting to release some of that stuff. And I'm actually noticing a difference because muscle pain and joint pain is something I have. And as I've been releasing this in the last few weeks, my muscle and joint pain has gotten less. So you can tell what your
Yeah.
overwhelmed nervous system does to your body.
Yeah, for sure. I'm dealing with a lot of stored trauma myself, and it's coming out in like health issues and things like that, that I'm trying to still move through and understand and find a way to nurture myself as, and wherever I can have the moments to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so your faith transitions and your identity through like marriage as a wife, as a mom, all those things, they kind of went hand in hand. What's next on your timeline? Was that the child loss?
Yeah, once the divorce was all finalized and just living with my kids and raising teenagers. I had three daughters that I had to raise single-handedly, and when you go from being conservative Mennonite wearing dresses and high weight, everything was modest,
Hmm.
and then raising three teenage daughters that don't, I've left, so the rules didn't matter to them like they did to me.
Hmm.
And so the trauma of, watching them dress the way they wanted to, but at the same time, on one hand, I realized that's the road we're going down, but on the other hand, well, this is sin because this is how I was raised, and that alone causes a lot of.
Would you say there was envy wrapped up in that at all? Because like they had less programming to work with and they could just be more freer than you.
That's an interesting question. I have
Just
never
curious,
thought
like
about
I'm
that.
just like, would you consider the thought that there may have been envy also? Because that's where my mind goes right away.
Well, you see, I never wanted those things in the first place, but I think maybe what I would have liked is that I wouldn't have had to feel so terrible. Everything is sin, but how do I let them do it and how do I
Yeah,
mitigate
yeah,
it myself,
yeah. Well,
and
and like you said, when your identity is wrapped up quite literally in the church because you're wearing what you're obligated to wear, what you're
Mhm.
approved to wear, and if you step outside of that, well, then you're a sinner and you're going to hell and all the things,
Yeah.
right?
Because basically, once I chose to walk away, every choice I made, from listening to music to watching TV to dressing, that was all sin.
It was all, you're going to
And
hell now.
yep. Well,
Yep.
leaving the church, that was a you go to hell.
Yeah, you're going to hell
That
for
was,
all of this now. Yeah.
yep.
Well,
And
and I
so,
can understand to some degree. I mean, I did grow up with Mormon family members and
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's there's a lot of that there.
Yeah.
One of my youngest daughter, her dad and his family are super in the Mormon religion. Like he served his mission in France and did all the things,
Okay.
and it's heavily ingrained in everything you're going to hell for, everything you're a
Yeah.
sinner and you're worthless for. So it's just unbelievable the amount of damage it does to people,
Yeah.
to have that kind of, yeah, it's awful.
Yeah. And then a few years later, then my daughter was killed. She was 22, my middle daughter,
Okay.
in a horrific vehicle accident. And it's interesting. I sometimes hesitate to talk about the loss of my daughter because, like I said before, I was emotionally shut down. So I didn't cry very easy. I didn't feel. Um,
Do you
but
feel, I don't want you to feel like you have to talk about that, by the
oh,
way.
I don't mind talking about it.
Okay.
I just feel the reason I don't I tend to hesitate is because I'm not the weepy cry kind that's going to cry over and I can't live without my daughter kind of person.
Yeah.
And so I feel a bit guilty talking about it because
Because you, yeah.
I don't respond the way I perceive normally people would normally do.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna offer something on that because I feel like there are moments that I have that too, where I feel like almost desensitized by the amount of trauma and death that's been in my life. So even though I went through hell those first few years that my daughter died,
Hmm.
um, and I was depressed, I was suicidal, I cried all the time, I was completely shut down. I could not human at all. Um, but now when people bring it up, and it's very rare that I shed tears over it, and I can't decide if it's because I'm desensitized by it or if there's so much acceptance and joy that like it's just transformed. The grief does transform, right?
Yeah.
Or if it's a combination of several things, right? Like I couldn't tell you. I don't even know. I don't even fucking know.
Yeah.
Like I just know
Well, and the
that.
funny thing is, then this is something I don't understand. So my daughter had a dog, and so I ended up with the dog after she passed. And oh no, this year, this past January, I mean, she was about 14-ish years old,
Mhm,
and she had some health issues. Not like she still acted normal, but in order to get her better, I'd have to pay a few $1,000s. So no, like she's lived a good life. It's time for her to go. But I had to make that choice
mhm.
to put her down. And my youngest daughter, she said, Mom, I can't come. I can't come along and be there with you when you do it. So, I get home and on the day of the appointment, I get home, walk in the house, and she's all happy to see me. And I says, come on, let's go for a car ride. She loved car rides. She jumps in the car and off we go to the vet just down the road for 3 minutes. And I open the door, she gets out, she's all happy, smelling the snowbanks, and here I am. That affected me almost like I felt more almost
Yeah,
than I did with my
yeah,
daughter. Even now, like I tear up. And I don't walk where I used to walk her anymore.
yeah.
So it's kind of odd. Like somebody said to me, you feel more about the dog than you did your own daughter.
Yeah, but here's the truth about that. The truth about that is when we receive the information that is such a brain injury that our child has died, we are in such a state of shock and numbness that there is no feeling. It's like
Yeah.
we've bypassed humanity altogether at that point. Um, so it makes sense to me that you feel more about the dog because now you have more capacity for emotion,
Yeah.
whereas then you did not.
And it was the last living thing of my daughter. So it's
Right,
connected
right.
to my daughter, which interestingly, when I got inside the vet office there, the vet assistant's name was Brittany, the same name as my daughter's.
Right. Yes. Right. So those triggers, so I had a trigger that was very similar. And it was changing my last name, which just finally happened. I could have changed my name 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I could have changed my name a long time ago, but I didn't because it was also my daughter's last name.
Uh-huh.
And I felt like I was abandoning her if I changed my last name. And so when I finally did it, which was like a year ago, um, there was so much grief that came with that decision. I'd
Sure.
avoided it for so many years.
Yeah.
It was such a heavy decision that I had avoided it for a very long time. So when it did finally happen, there was so much relief, liberation, and grief all at the same time.
Hmm.
It was a whirlwind, which
Yeah.
like, yeah, crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's just very interesting. I mean, now, so there was the loss of my daughter, like you said, I was in shock and shut down. Looking back, I think I can understand that more than when something like traumatic happens to me, I tend to be the person that organizes and plans and I don't fall apart.
Yeah,
I'm the one that, okay, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. And
right.
And, you know, I went past, in the first months, I went past where she had been killed a few times. But as time went on, there are certain things that bother me now. Like, I don't go by there anymore
Yeah, you
at
can't
all.
now.
I will
Yeah.
drive around. I
Yeah.
don't want to do that anymore, you know, and or getting rid of her clothes. Some of her clothes, you know, I've worn, and you know, they wear out, and then that bothers me because her clothes are wearing out, you know. What's
Yeah.
going to be left of to remember her?
Right.
So it is some of the, you know.
I never, I went through a stage about 3 years after my daughter died where I felt like I was sick of looking at her face. She was in all the pictures on the walls, and I was like, I went through this stage where I was like, I can't look at her fucking face. And then I felt like a horrible mom because I couldn't look at
Uh-huh.
my kid's face, but I
Yeah.
had to take all the fucking pictures down, and I was tired of being reminded of this face that I could never fucking see again. Like
Yeah.
it was killing me. And most people will never understand
Yeah.
how awful that
Well,
feels.
there's weird things that happen. You know, I couldn't read after she died. I couldn't read
Yeah,
like just this much at a time.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't hold a job. I couldn't function. I couldn't stay out of bed. I couldn't care for myself. I wanted to kill myself, and I'm pretty open about it. Like I have no shame about the fact that I was totally wanting to kill myself every fucking
Yeah.
day. It's amazing that I'm even still here, alive and sober.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So I
crazy.
feel you. It's crazy. I actually used to go through these really horrible moments where I was still being abused in the decision of where she was laid to rest, where her plot
Okay.
is. So the decision that I made was under coercive control and abuse from her dad and his family. So now I have all this regret about where she's buried and I don't go because it was a decision made not from my truth, right? And it was a forced decision that I was not okay with.
That is
Um,
so interesting. Or yeah, finish.
so when I first would go see her grave, I would panic every time I had to leave because I felt like I was abandoning her again. I'm leaving her
Mhm.
out here alone in a place where I didn't want her to be in the first place. And now it's been years and years since I guess I think the last time I went and saw her grave was in 2000, probably 2021, um, somewhere around there. I want to say 21. And that was the last time I went. And I had kind of cut back going at that point anyway. Um, but in my mind, it's not where I want her. And also she's not even there anyway.
Yeah.
You know, she's really not there. It's just a box and some dirt, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not even what her essence is.
Yeah.
But there was so much, yeah, there's still a lot of anger and grief that I have about even where she's laid to rest. And I can't support that decision. I'm struggling to support
Yeah.
that decision because it was made um, in a mindset when I was so broken that it was even easier to abuse me. They were already abusing me,
Yeah.
but in that place, I was so in such shock that I couldn't even fight anything. I couldn't fight myself out a wet paper sack. Yeah. So I live with that one a lot right now.
Yeah. That is so interesting that you had such dynamics around burial because we did too.
Yeah.
So my daughter's, like I said, she was 22 and she told her friends, anybody that was close to her knew she wanted to be cremated.
Hmm.
She talked about that.
Yeah.
And she had all her paper, you know, she didn't have a will, but she had all her banking, everything was when had to close everything, she had that all figured out. It was very simple to close down her accounts because it was either went to me and her dad or her siblings, you know, but my ex-husband's family, like I said, they're conservative, or I mean they're horse and buggy Mennonite, so they're
Right.
super conservative. The whole thing of cremation, like that's not a good idea because I think there's a verse in the Bible somewhere that talks about the heathen cremated their loved ones or something like that. So my ex-husband was in a bad situation because, here was his parents that wanted something. And finally I said to him, I tried to say it kindly, but it's just like, we can listen to your parents and, you'd be okay with them, but then you're going to be distanced from your daughters because they're not going to approve of that.
Yeah, they're going to
Or
have
you listen to
resentment.
your daughters, to your family, your immediate family, and then you're going to be at odds with your parents, but we need to respect our daughter's wishes. Like, she wanted to be cremated,
Yeah.
and that still, you know, it's just has put a sour taste. I mean, I'm not part of the family anymore, so I very rarely cross paths with them.
Yeah.
I actually need to go there and drop something off, and I'm postponing it.
You're like, let me just
Because the
avoid.
other thing is that I have to wear a dress when I go there. We're not allowed to wear pants when we go there. And it's just like I just don't have the energy to go do that. But one
You're
of
like,
these days,
I don't want to prison myself again just to do this thing.
yes.
Yeah, I'm sure that whole thing alone is triggering by itself.
Yeah.
Wow. Phew. So you said your daughter's name is Brittany.
Yes.
Okay. And
Brittany
so,
Star.
okay. Brittany what?
Brittany Star.
Brittany Star. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful name. Where's Star come from?
I met someone years ago before I got married, and her name was Star. Her first name was Star, and I just thought that was kind of fun.
Okay. Yeah. So my daughter's name is Brielle
Oh,
Dawn.
okay.
So, yeah.
So how old was
So
she when she
together
got?
they could be like the morning star.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Brielle was she wasn't quite 3 yet.
Oh,
So she died in September. She would have been 3 on December 7th. She was pretty little.
okay.
And I wasn't there when she died. I was actually out of state, um, getting help and going through rehab and trying to heal my life after the abuse that I went through being with her dad, and trying to get back on track and get drugs out of my system and all the things. And while I was gone in California, she was in the care of her dad's parents, who I also thought were abusive idiots. I did not agree with her being there. And there's a lot to this story, but she was in their care, and they had left her unattended in the backyard, and she drowned herself in the pool.
Oh.
Hmm. So it was very unexpected. She was a very healthy little girl. Um, Super unexpected. Obviously, I got the news while I was in California, and I had to make a knee-jerk decision to fly home right away, plan an entire funeral, tell her brothers and sisters. Um, it was the worst time in my life for sure. And then, even after that, the hardest decision was having to leave my kids again, because after it was all said and done and we'd put her in the ground, we'd had the services, my kids were still little, fairly little. My oldest was, I think, 11 or 12 at the time. I think my son was 9, and my other daughter was like 5. And they were traumatized from the event and begging me to stay home and not leave them. And I knew that if I stayed, I would have killed myself. I knew that if I had not put myself in protective custody somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
that they wouldn't have a mom. I knew it. No doubt about it. I was going to kill myself, and I had no qualms about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid to admit it. Still not afraid to talk about it. Um, so that was the hardest decision, was having to abandon them, because it caused a lot of abandonment issues,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that they felt absolutely betrayed, abandoned, left, all the things in the time they needed me most. But the fact of the matter was, I couldn't give them anything,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have died had I tried. And so I forced myself to get back on the plane and go back to rehab where I was monitored so I wouldn't kill myself.
That's a very brave thing to do.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard. And then I would say I think I left rehab a couple months later and I stayed sober through all of this. I don't know how the fuck I did that, but I did always stay sober through that. Um, but it took years to still get to a place where I didn't want to absolutely off myself every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, when my kids were growing up, the drama we had with my, my ex-husband being with my cousin and all of that drama and church drama and what all. It was like, we kind of all thought, well, let's just die and go to heaven. It would just be so much simpler.
Right? God, so much more
And
simple.
I don't know if that, that us feeling that way growing up, or then, well, while they grew up, if that made the loss somewhat easier,
Yeah.
because life is so fucking hard sometimes.
God, I'm telling
Just
you.
die and go to heaven to just eliminate the drama and the trauma and the
Yeah.
shit.
Well, and I think it's still considered suicidal ideation, right? Like where we
Mhm.
have like this passive, it would be so much easier if we could just check the fuck out because life sucks so bad.
Mhm.
And it can. Life can be really fucking rotten to some of
Yeah.
us. And I think that that's why I try so hard to teach people like be kind and stop judging. You have no clue what people are going through.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
I also think that that feeling that we get, that whether we call it suicidal or suicidal ideation or the escapism of, oh, it could be better if I wasn't in this body. I think it's just our like instinctive nature because our body is it's under attack, right? Like our body is quite
yeah,
literally under attack. And we know that this is not supposed to, we're not supposed to feel like this. This is too much to bear for our fragile human selves. And so I feel like it's instinctual to be like, our souls know that there's such a better way, even if we don't fully understand that yet. Yeah.
yeah, it is. That makes complete sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Rough stuff. So, do you
Yeah.
mind if we shift a little bit into empty nesters? Because I feel like that is also something you and I can touch base on.
So 6 years ago, this November was when my daughter died. So November
Okay.
1st. So the last Friday in October, my oldest daughter moved out to her boyfriend with her boyfriend to their farm that they had bought. That was a Friday. The next week, Friday, November 1st at noon, my middle daughter was killed.
A week later,
Yes. And
oh,
7 months later, on June 1st, my youngest daughter moved out.
oh my God.
So I went from, and I knew, in my brain, we were four adult women living in the house. I nearly went crazy. You
Well, yeah.
know, I finally got to the point I would text my kids on the weekend, you need to do this and this and this. These are your jobs. The jobs were the same every freaking weekend, every freaking week. But unless I told them, they wouldn't do them. Things like that that just
Yeah.
drove the mother crazy.
Right.
And I knew that eventually they would be gone, and I wanted to be able to enjoy having them around.
Hmm.
But it was quite stressful having three adult daughters at home.
Yeah. I bet.
And then all of a sudden they weren't.
Yeah.
And when I was having kids, I remember thinking that I want them far enough apart that they wouldn't all leave home at the same time.
Well, that makes sense, actually. Yeah.
They
So
were
you,
all 3-ish years apart, give or take a bit.
yeah, mine too.
And they all left home at the same time, pretty much. So, and there again, looking back, I think I was numbed. I mean, my daughter had just died, and so, what else could I do, except live? I'm not gonna, I never was the person to crawl, I had to work, I had to pay the bills. Like if I didn't work, then the bills wouldn't get paid. So,
Yeah.
I mean, mind you, after my daughter was killed for 3 months, I had went on unemployment.
Yeah.
And then I was back 6 weeks or so, and then COVID happened. So,
Oh, yeah. And
so I
see,
had a lot of time off then.
yours is more fresh than mine too, because your daughter died, what did you say, in 29, or was it 19?
2019, yeah, 6 years
Okay,
ago.
so 2019, mine died in 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, and I want to say when I hit the 5-year mark, right when I hit the 5-year mark of her being dead, that's when my grief really, really shifted the most. Like those first 5 years fucking killed me.
Yeah.
Um, but after that 5-year mark, that's when I would say it really, really shifted so much after that. Would you say that, do you have a timeline, like when you look at your grief and you look
Well,
back?
I would say I'm a little bit the opposite.
Oh, okay, okay. It's killing
Whereas,
you now.
and if it's not killing me, but it's like I said, there's certain things that
Yeah.
are more sensitive. I no longer drive by where she was killed. I don't, things make me sad about, getting rid of her old clothes. Soon
Hmm.
there's going to be nothing left of her.
Right.
It bothers me more now, just those little pockets every now and then that come up
Yeah.
that hurt.
I love, and I am even envious that you have her belongings to get to have that experience. I don't have anything of Brielle's.
Oh,
So when she was with them while I was in California, her belongings, her clothes, her bed, like were with them.
yeah.
Um, when she died, they kept everything from me. So I have nothing of hers. I never got to hold her clothes, smell her scents. Like, what do I do with this stuff? How do I? It was never something I was even allowed to process or have any opinions about,
Oh,
any
that would be
experience with.
very hard.
So I am very envious that it's not easy that you're going through this, but I
Yeah,
go, man, that's for me, I go, I wish I could have had that with my daughter. Again,
yeah,
they were so abusive, the family was so abusive in nature, and still to this
yeah,
day. I want to say it was just a couple years ago. Someone from that family had made a comment on my page. You don't even go to her grave now and just being ugly. And first of all, they were wrong. I actually, me and my youngest daughter were going out there, but it's not that I have to prove it to them or anybody else. They don't get to
yeah,
decide how I grieve and what my process looks like, so they can fuck off. I don't care.
yeah,
But the fact is that still, after all these years, they someone still tries to find ways
yeah.
to harass me or come see if they can still, get access to abusing me. It's just like some people really are that fucked up in their head.
I guess, and I don't completely understand that. I mean, my ex-husband and I don't, he doesn't speak to me really hardly ever. But yeah, it's just hard for me sometimes to realize how evil people can be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. How ugly.
Because I think overall I'm quite a trusting person. I think that people are going to do the right thing.
You
And then I
think.
realize that they don't, and it's just like, oh,
Yeah. So, and you had empty nesters. Like, I mean, it's just like, well, one of them was by death, but like it still like hit you all at the same time. And
yeah.
I almost want to say I went through something similar, but years ago, because like my kids were little.
Yeah,
So when Brielle died, not only did I lose myself in that, and whatever version of me existed in that was wiped out, right? Gone.
yeah,
Um, she was gone, but I also could not care for my children, because I was so checked out in all the ways. So they had to live with their dads And so because I was going through homelessness and everything, I couldn't function to
Yeah.
work to support myself. So I was living on the streets, living in my car. Like I didn't have family that could help me in any way. I did get some help from family years later, but in the midst of all that, I still to this day don't know how I didn't end up on drugs again or killing myself. I have no clue. I can't even take credit for that. Like something was getting me through, but it wasn't fucking me because I would have
Yeah.
chosen to check out at any given moment. So, but in that, in my mind, I had lost all of my kids, right? Because I couldn't
Yeah.
even care for them. So I feel
To me,
like,
that's one of the worst things when I think of the
right.
separate when the separation and divorce, when the kids have to go to your dad and you don't trust the dad and the girlfriend, and
Yes, yes,
that
yeah.
is
It's
that is
awful.
horrible.
Yeah. And that's where I was, is like, I wasn't even in a place to consider, all those pieces because I was so fucking brain injured
Yeah.
that I couldn't even human myself. But but those are pieces that you do have to look at and consider typically, right? And so I want to say because of that situation, it almost made empty nesters when they got older, because they did get older. We did come back together. I did get to spend, well, my oldest is in Utah, so I didn't get to like spend time with her again so much in that way. But my son and my daughter, my other two, they did come home. They did, make transitions to come back, and I was a different, healthier version that I could parent them because at
Yeah.
that point I could parent myself,
Yeah.
right? And so when it was time for them to get into their, it's time to go to college and it's time to move out with my girlfriend and do these things, I almost want to say that was easier because I'd already lost them
Oh
before.
yeah. Oh yeah. No,
So,
I
yeah,
that makes sense because
yeah. So like,
you had literally lost them once. Like
yes,
this
yes.
was they were going to still come back in your life occasionally.
Right, right. So even though empty nesters, when they do move out and transition and they go on, it is very hard. Even
Yeah.
if you've already experienced it to some level, it's still really hard. It's liberating. I get to find who I am without the
Yeah.
mother title, and there's so much individuality that happens, and it's beautiful. But it's also very painful.
I
And
think for me, feeling like I've been abandoned, and I think,
yeah,
I also struggle with abandonment issues, from my past that I'm still working through.
yes, yes.
My husband cheated on me. That's
Yep.
abandonment.
All of that. Yeah, I felt that
And
too.
like, who's going to help me? Like, what my biggest fear, that I'm working through is, what if I end up homeless?
Oh, girl, it happens. I did. Thank
And
God
that
you never had to
terrifies
do
me.
that. Thank God you never had to do that.
No.
Right.
But that is, even generationally before me, my family was like, we struggle from financial deprivation, like not enough, and I am trying to change that and I even see my kids, they're not as stressed about money as I am.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to be, but I'm
Right.
working through that. But
Right.
that's traumatic because when my kids lived at home here in Canada, you're in the US, right?
Yeah. So I'm in the US. Yeah.
So here in Canada, we get family allowance for our kids.
Okay.
We get paid a monthly fee by the government for for each kid you have.
Okay. To help
So I
support
had
them.
that when my kids were living at home. I had child support. And then when they left,
So it's
that all
a
disappears.
right. So it's a
All of a sudden,
financial change too.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
huge financial change because, and then you're middle aged and all of a sudden you're short money,
Yeah.
but you're getting older
Right.
and you're tired,
Right.
but you still gotta, that pisses me right off.
Yeah. Well, and
You know?
a lot of that wounding comes up in our worth when we're attracting money or asking for money or
Yeah.
when we need to be paid what we feel like we're worth, and all those things are so tied in together. God, yeah, and then I sit and even have the same thoughts you're having, like, if we just follow that trajectory, I wonder like, how do people do it when they're 80? How do
Well,
people do it? Like,
exactly.
how the fuck does this even happen? When you
Because
can't.
I don't have enough money to be 80.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, how are
You
people
know?
doing it when their bodies don't work the same and
Yeah.
the support, they don't have support because their families are off doing their own families. And like, what do people do? You know, this is where it pisses me off too, because so many people fall through the fucking cracks. And
Well, it is, and that's another whole conversation is
yeah, for sure.
our individuality. You know, we're lacking community.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
100%.
and then my oldest daughter moved to Manitoba with her and her husband to follow their dreams, and it's just like there's my grandkids over there. I see them once a year. Thank God for FaceTime.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
how I am with my oldest daughter. She's in Utah, and we have a very close relationship, but we have to talk on the phone, once and twice a
yeah,
week because there's so much distance.
yeah, and so I have my youngest daughter here. You know, they are considering, well, we actually all of us are considering, we feel like it's time to I know that my time of living in Ontario has come to a close. It's time for me to move on.
Yeah.
And my daughter and her husband feel somewhat that way too. So I think, through the next year that will happen. How it's going to happen, I have no idea. But I will be moving at some point. So, there's a lot of things in life.
Yeah. So much more. There's so many more big decisions that have to happen. So
Yeah,
many more.
exactly.
So, can I ask you, when you're working with your clients, what legacy do you hope to leave through your mentorship?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Maybe that nobody should be alone. Um, I don't want for people to feel like they're alone
Right.
because I've experienced that so much. I don't want people to have to experience that.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have someone mentor me, to be there to talk to and bounce things off of,
Hmm.
and to create a widening circle, like when you throw the stone in the water and the ripples go out. If I do this, then those women can do it. And it can just grow so that we can create community
Yeah.
of support for people that need it. So we don't have to be alone and homeless.
Yeah. Exactly. Lucille, this is going to be posted in the show notes anyway, but
Okay.
what's the fastest way for people to find you if they want to work with you?
Um, well, I have my website at oh my gosh, I haven't even said this. First of all, my Instagram is Lucille Dawn Barkman, and they can go, yes, that would actually be the fastest. Lucille Dawn Barkman, and then the link is in there.
Okay, perfect.
Bio.
I mean, it'll be in the show notes, but
Yeah.
yeah, if that's the quickest way. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to wrap things up. Is there any final words that you want to share before we say our goodbyes?
Well, this is very interesting, and hearing your side of the story and experiences is also helpful to me.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, thank
And
you very much for
yours have
this.
been for me too, because I'm like, I'm so jealous. Look at the things you get to do in your world. Like but it's good. It's jealous in an inspiring way. Like
Yeah,
not in a not in a bad way, but like in a
yeah,
very inspiring way. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Well, if you want to help me say goodbye to our listeners, I'm going to end it right here. So, bye, you guys.
bye, everyone.